Do you want to write better sermons week in and week out? I know, that's kind of a silly question. Of course you do. Who wouldn't? You and I both know how important preaching is to the mission of the church. After all, Jesus was a preacher, a masterful one. But that doesn't mean it's easy. See, wise preachers know that improving in the craft of preaching is something they'll need to work on for the rest of their lives. In this video, what I want to show you is 3 ways to write better sermons. So how does that look? How can you? Well, I want to show you 3 ways. Number 1 is structure. I'm convinced that improving your sermon structure is the best step most preachers can take in their preaching. I think many sermons could have gone from a 6 out of 10 to an 8 out of 10 if they structured it better. Same content, different structure. Like that heartfelt story you shared in the middle, put that at the beginning. Then take that lesser illustration. You know, we all know that every sermon illustration is not created equal. Let's just admit that. And put that one in the middle.
Now that's a bright idea.
Then toward the end, call back to that heartfelt story that you started with. Point to the congregation back to the bottom line that you discovered in the text. See, the lack of a good structure, I believe, is most often attributed to not outlining your sermon before you write it. Outlining your sermon before you write it, it does so many helpful things for you in your preaching. It allows you to see the big picture of the message. It helps you see any opportunities for tweaks. It shows you whether or not the message is going to flow naturally. And it displays the pacing of the sermon. Like, do you need to add an illustration right here? Or maybe there? Do you need to provide a little bit of comic relief? You know, if you're not sure how to structure your sermon, I highly recommend the sticky sermon structure. I've got a video on that in the channel. Hey, I hope you're enjoying this video. If you are, be sure to hit a like button, subscribe, consider that. But more than anything else, I want to give you a free gift, my way of saying thanks for being on this video. If you are wanting to develop in your preaching, then you need to get this 10-step guide to writing a sticky sermon. Go to preachandlead.com/guide and get your free guide right there. It'll break it down from start to finish how to preach a great message. The second thing is illustrations. My wife and I, about, over a year ago, got to experience something that neither one of us thought we would ever get to, and that was this. At a local college here in Northeast Indiana, it was celebrating their 100th year anniversary, and to kick off their celebration, they hosted Dr. Tony Evans as a speaker. And we got tickets and were able to attend, and it was an amazing night of worship and celebration, and then when Dr. Evans got up to speak, y'all, it was a clinic in preaching. He was funny, he was skilled. But do you want to know what stuck out more than anything else? I'm so glad that you asked. It was his use of sermon illustrations. There were so many that I couldn't keep count. And while you and I are not Dr. Tony Evans, unless, Doc, you're watching this, hey, how's it going? We can take for ourselves a valuable lesson from him. We're not him, but we can take a lesson, and that is use more sermon illustrations. If you want to write better sermons, spend more time meditating and reflecting on the text and write down more illustration ideas.
That's a great idea. I'm with that.
And they don't all have to be personal stories. In fact, I would encourage you not to use all of them, but use analogies, use news stories, use anecdotes from books. And obviously, in order to do this consistently, you need a system for discovering and collecting sermon illustrations. You've got to go and look for them. And when you do, use them. Look for ways to use them. See, most sermons, I believe, could use an additional sermon illustration or 5 sprinkled in to show what you're telling. Third thing, editing. Stephen King once said, when you write a book, you spend day after day scanning and identifying the trees. When you're done, you have to step back and look at the forest. The same is true when you write a sermon. Unfortunately, you don't have as much time with a sermon as you do with a book, right? But that doesn't mean you skip this step. You need to edit your message. So after you've written your sermon, it's important to go through it and identify anything that can be cut. But how do I know what to cut? Well, that's a great question. I'm so glad that you asked. My best answer is, it depends.
You've been very helpful. Thank you.
It all depends on the particular sermon you're writing. Does that rabbit trail need to be followed? Could it be cut in half? For sure. Could it be cut entirely? Probably. Does that subpoint need that much time devoted to it? Or is it just your pet cat that you really got intrigued about in your prep? If you're asking the question, the answer is probably cut it down. What do I do with the stuff I'm going to edit out? Well, that's another good question. You guys, you are doing a great job with asking great questions.
Congratulations.
Here's the thing. Don't just press delete. Instead, cut and paste it into a note or another document for safekeeping when you can use it in a different sermon. My tool of choice is it used to be Evernote. It's more so Notion nowadays. But whatever you use, save it. So which do you need to focus on? That's the question for you to consider today. Do you need to focus on doing better structure, better illustrations, better editing? I'd encourage you to pick one and focus on it for your next sermon. And just to give you an idea, the one that is probably the easy win for you is structure. So if you want to learn how to structure your sermon for maximum impact, go right here and watch this video. I'll show you exactly how to structure your sermon for better engagement and for more transformation. Go right here. I'll see you right there.